What's up, YouTube? You checking out the Frequent Flyer, and this is my quick review of the RC leading RC126 Flying Starfish. I'm just kidding. This thing looks just like a flying starfish though, and as you can see, I did add some eyes on it for fun, and he is grateful that I have given him sight. But all jokes aside, this thing is a mini size hexacopter by this company RC Leading, which is fairly new on the scene, and they have been producing a lot of multi-rotors as of lately. I think they have upwards of 5 different models out on the scene now, mainly on the site Latic, in which I got this from, courtesy of Latic. But there's another one that's on there with the same 3-bladed prop setup, but this one seems to be a little bit smaller. So pretty unique with this 3-bladed prop setup and the size of it. This thing flies pretty nice. Although I do wish the yaw rate was a little faster. The yaw rate is a little slow. No indoor flying with this one, folks. You're going to do wide turns with this. If you're doing banking turns with it, it turns a little slow for indoors, unless you're in a gym or you're a member at some club where you can fly this thing in a gym or something like that. You're going to be pretty much flying this thing outdoors. It's a pretty nice flyer though. Has really nice pitch and roll angles. The pitch and roll angles are deep, so you can get some speed going with this. The 3-bladed props are a little small as compared to other multi-rotors of its size. The distance in between the arms are pretty short. So you're only going to be able to fly them with these props here for the most part, and which is not so bad though. It makes it very stable. This is a very stable flyer. Usually hexacopters are a little more stable than the quadcopters, and also the 3-bladed props make it even more stable. So this thing is very still and hover. The throttle will make it go up fast, and it does really nice flips because of that, but it does do cheater flips, as I like to call them. It gives itself a lot of throttle before and after the flip, so it kind of overdoes it. When you're doing a flip, you lose control of it for about a second as it throttles into the flip and does the flip, and then it throttles out of it too, so it continues to rise after the flip. Don't try to flip this thing indoors. I have hit this thing on a ceiling a couple times, flying it indoors and doing flips. The motor shafts are pretty fragile, I think, in crashes. So you might want to, if you're going to be trying to fly this thing indoors, or if you crash a lot, it might be a nice idea to keep the prop guards on. It does come with 6 prop guards, and the prop guards work pretty well. And I've found that when you crash this without the prop guards on, these posts here on it are easy to bend. So that's one thing I didn't like about it, how far these stems on the props stick up, and it makes it very vulnerable to crashes and bending in the crash. And so you have to be careful with that if you're going to be flying it recklessly or indoors. I say it again, use the prop guards. But for the most part, this thing is okay for flying outdoors. It is an outdoor quad in my opinion because of the slow yaw rate. It does have headless mode. I really don't use headless mode too much. I like to use headless mode when the yaw rate is fast, and then it can be fun. But this yaw rate isn't really fast enough to have fun with headless mode. And you guys know my thoughts on headless mode is that it really wouldn't get you out of a jam or anything. So the headless mode and return to home features are pretty much useless on these toy grade quadcopters without GPS or anything, because it basically just pulls back on the transmitter from headless mode. And if you don't have your headless mode set correctly, then you're really in trouble. It's going to fly off somewhere else when you do the return to home feature in the headless mode. You have to set it up before you start to fly on most multi-rotors, but on this one, the headless mode is set depending on the direction that it's facing when you press headless mode. So that's not good. So you can be, unless you're just going to fly the whole time in headless mode when you start flying it, but then headless starts to get off. So if you're flying this thing around and you lose control of it, headless mode isn't going to get you out of the jam, because it's just going to set the bearing to wherever the front of the quad is facing at that time. So that's what I'm trying to say for you guys. Headless mode is not going to get you out of a jam, so don't try to depend on it. It's pretty much useless. But it does have it. I guess checking all the bells and whistles with these toy quads. Most of them have it these days. It does have really nice LEDs, so this thing is a really nice night flyer. The LEDs are really bright, and you have white in the front and 4 greens in the back. And even in the daytime, orientation isn't hard because of these white props up front, and then the 4 in the back are black. So that's awesome. Like I said, it's an 800 milliamp hour battery in here. This does use the Cyma camera system. It seems the setup, the hookup and connection here are exactly the same as the Cyma X5C. So there's a 3-prong connector here for a camera. You can put a camera on this. And in fact, the FPV setup that I have fits the Cyma X5C. Is actually able to be installed on this, and it works on this. You can control the camera and all. So that's pretty decent. That is compatible with the X5C's camera system. That's awesome. And the transmitter is actually a Cyma style transmitter, sort of a hobby style transmitter. This light does come on just like the Cyma X5C. And headless mode is this side here. When you press in on a stick, it goes into headless mode. Return to home is the left side. And it does have the aileron trim and the elevator trim, but this trim here is not the throttle trim. Pressing down on this actually switches rates. This does have 3 rates. So, and you do hear the beeping for the rates. The first rate, it'll beep once. The second rate, it'll beep twice, and 3 times for the third rate. And on third rate, the yaw is a little faster than the others, but still not fast enough. In my book, I think it has a slow yaw, as I said before, but the pitch is very deep and the roll is deep. So really nice pitch and roll angles, which allows it to fly pretty fast. And if you press up on this throttle trim button, it'll turn the lights on and off. So you can toggle the lights on and off. This here is a yaw trim. The camera button's on the shoulder here. This here, if you press it one time, it'll take a still photo, and if you hold the button down, then it starts to record video. And this is the flip button over here. It takes 4 AA batteries, and the Cyma FPV system can sort of fit on here. It doesn't fit exactly because it doesn't have the 2 holes down here that the bracket has to go into, but for the most part it can be held on here, and I think I will show that in a future video, that hookup being the monitor being on here and the FPV system, camera system being installed on here. But for the most part, this is a decent multi-rotor, and you get an extra set of spare props, which you only get 4 of them, but I guess that's enough. But they should, I would like if they would start giving 6 with these hexacopters, because you have 6 props. Why not? You have 6 motors. Why not give us 6 extra spares? 6 spares in here. But they only give you 4, and they give you a screwdriver. And oh yeah, the battery connection is this JST connection here, so you get a USB charger for that. Oh, and the landing gear. The landing gear does just pull off. No screw needed. But when you remove the landing gear, it lays flat almost. But this little part here for the camera hookup, it protrudes lower than the rest of the motor pods do. So it can spin around that way if you have it land flat without the landing gear on it. But for the most part, it's pretty much level. In other words, you can calibrate it with without the landing gear on it. But of course, if you're using the camera, you're going to need the landing gear. So that's it. The RC leading RC126 Flying Starfish. Thanks for watching.